Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Okay, nur ein bisschen, okay. So, ist hier meine Deutsch. Autobahn? Ach, ich liebe die Autobahn. Oh, so. Kartoffelsalat? Oh, was ist Wurst ist gut? Schnitzel. Oh, Schnitzel. Im Italien haben Sie Milanese, weißen Sie? Ja? Nope. Nein, Schnitzel. Schnitzel. All right, that's all my German. That's literally all that I have. So I'm going to do the presentation in English. I hope that's okay. So, one of the things I always like to do, it's very important, because I go through a lot of slides, and I have a lot of details, and I have a ton of links that you might want to check out. So, there's no need to take notes. You don't have to look down and write stuff, and type on your laptop, mobile phone. Boom. bit.ly/keep up with Google. And all the slides are on SlideShare via that link. Cool. All right. Sweet. I'll show you that URL again at the end, but bit.ly, keep up with Google. So here's the hard part. The hard and frustrating part for those of us who are in SEO or in marketing, who need to keep up with what Google's doing, is that they have, right? So we know about a few big algorithmic changes, but Google's launching 500 or more algorithmic changes every year. That's like 2 a day. You know when they like to launch most of them? They'll test them on the weekends, and they'll try and launch them on holidays, so that if something goes wrong, they roll it back and they have lower than average traffic. It's sort of funny that way. Yeah, if you ever check your rankings on like an American holiday, you'd be like, huh, that's weird, everything's bouncing around. Go check if there's a US holiday. That's when their search engineers love to roll them out. And there's tons and tons of fluctuations in the search results themselves, right? So we calculate this, and on average, 8.5 of the top 10, 8.5 out of the top 10 that appear on the first page of Google will change ranking position every month. That's mind-numbing. Probably makes you feel a lot better about those rankings where you've been ranking, number 1, number 2 for a long time. You should feel really good about that. And every day, 78% of search results change at least somewhat. 78%. Holy crap. I'm not. 85. So we literally are tracking now almost 100 different types of search results. I'll show you. So 10 blue links. Ooh. Okay, image results, knowledge graph and video and news. The local results, the one box, the knowledge graph there, the news again, the ratings and reviews. This is the, the slider up at the top, right? And the map system. We have knowledge graph again, but this time with additional info and recent posts that are coming from their Google Plus page, and site links and news with images, even instant answers, right? There's tons of these. In fact, if you want, you can go check out this presentation from Dr. Pete, one of the Mozzers, who put together literally the death of the 10 blue links and talking about all the different changes in here. The challenge also extends to the problem that we have so many people who are trying to sell us SEO solutions, right? And I'll be very honest about our field. Not the people in this room, but a lot of people in SEO are totally untrustworthy. Like, if you go and you buy crap from Fiverr, shame on you. Also, if you sell crap on Fiverr, more shame on you. But you're probably making good money at it, because from what I can see, there's tens of thousands of people buying these Fiverr, who thinks this? Oh yes, I will write an SEO-based article of 400 words for $5. That must be a great investment. There's a marketer somewhere who literally said that and then clicked buy. Ugh. And there's new information for us every day, right? if you're keeping up with the SEO field, which by the way, on average, marketers say that SEO is the hardest thing to keep up with. There's a recent study that was featured on eConsultancy, I think through Sempo. And they said marketers are spending 2 full days a month on average keeping up with SEO. Well, it's a ton of content. Why bother? Why is this so important? Well, so it turns out that if you're doing SEO, right, in 2009 methodologies, right, as though it were 2009, that's when you came up to speed with SEO, that's when you learned everything about the practice, your opportunity gap, right, all this red area here, whoa, sorry, oh boy. Someone else probably, that was Ben kicked that earlier, that wasn't me. I'm just kidding, he gave a great talk. You're missing a ton of traffic, right? And in SEO, one of the frustrating things about our practice is if you rank well, you will continue to rank well, right? You have an inherent bias. And that bias comes because Google's signals for SEO, for rankings, are really focused on links, attention, shares, right? Visibility. And so if you're more visible in Google's search results, then you have an opportunity to continue to get those signals that will help you rank at the top over time, again and again. Sort of frustrating if you're not in those top positions. This hasn't always been the case, and actually, for many years I've been coming to Germany and speaking with German SEOs, and in Germany in particular, it's only been in the last, I don't know, I'd say 3 or 4 years that Google has really started to crack down. Like seriously crack down on manipulative, crappy SEO practices. Before that, they were sort of cool with it. They really were. They were like, well, we don't have a ton of time and energy to focus. We can't really fix the English language results yet. And so the web spam teams were like taking a break. Not totally taking a break. I realized that, there's a web spam team out of, and quality team out of, is it Zurich, I think? Somewhere in Switzerland. And they have worked relatively hard, but this is changing a ton. In a lot of these ways, right, there's that survey I mentioned, in a lot of these ways that keeping up, knowing what Google is doing, is actually as important as doing the work, right? So, your boss comes over to your desk, or your client comes to you and says, gosh, you're spending a lot of time reading stuff, sharing stuff, following people on Twitter, seeing what they're doing. Why is that? Just get me some links. Okay, first off, hopefully nobody's saying that. But second, this is a critical practice, right? Because it is the case that if you are highly knowledgeable about exactly what's going on in SEO, you can do much more with the hours you work than if you don't, right? The productivity is just dramatically different if you know what you're doing. So there's 4 big areas that I'm going to talk about of things we absolutely have to know inside and out. And then from there, I'll dive into some specific strategic and tactical tips. So the first one, you got to know the big guys, right? Major algorithm updates. I'm talking about things like Panda and Penguin, Hummingbird. If you are having trouble sort of staying on top of those, this algo history page can help. It's a free resource, and it gets updated with every major sort of named algorithm update that Google does. It does get updated with some that are not named, like that Google, for some reason or another, doesn't publicize. If we track those, we see that they're important enough, we will include them. So here's Panda, right? And for those of you, I'm going to give a very quick backstory on Panda. So with Panda, the idea is that you have thin content or duplicative content, content that search engines, that Google does not want to have in their index. And that can mean a lot of different things. And the weird part about Panda is before Panda, there was never an algorithm where if you were doing something, wrong on a few of your pages, they would penalize the whole site. Now they do. And so a lot of people who've seen these traffic drops and think, oh, it must be Penguin, it must be I did something bad with my link building, I'm penalized for some reason. It could be that you have a lot of crappy content, Google doesn't like that. And they also did something with Panda that's very unique, and that is to use machine learning for the first time, right? Now, some of the key folks at Google, the engineering team there, really didn't like machine learning for a long time to be used in ranking algorithms. But they sort of changed their mind with Panda, and now Penguin uses machine learning as well. What this means is they take a bunch of sites and pages that they don't like, and they say, machine, go figure out what it is that these sites have that we don't like, and then filter out everything like it. And so sometimes you get a little bit of, error rate. It's tough. Penguin. So Penguin, this is the one that really hurts folks who've done manipulative link building. So essentially, same, very, very similar theory to Panda. They look at people who've attracted manipulative links, they look at where those are coming from, and then they say, I want to filter out stuff like this. And so you might look at your backlink profile and be like, hey, I think these are pretty legit. But if they have a lot of the same characteristics, features that spam tends to have, you could be in trouble. Right, so some of these features, just to mention them real quick, things like exact match anchor text or low quality sources, right, coming from places where you wouldn't necessarily want to see links, site-wide links, all that kind of stuff. I had a lot of caffeine this morning. Can you tell? Either that or German coffee is super strong. Which is it? No, it can't be strong in Seattle. Okay, Hummingbird. Hummingbird, right? So Hummingbird is Google saying, wait a minute, when you do a search for something like best bank interest rates for savings account, right? I want to find the highest savings account rates. All right. Google's going to say, in the past, what Google would rank there would be a lot of things that exactly matched that title tag, right? Had all those words right in the title. And Hummingbird has taken keyword matching and turned it on its head a little bit. Because what Hummingbird has done is said, we're going to try and match the intent of the searcher. Not the terms and phrases they used, but what they meant by those terms and phrases. That's very smart on Google's part, and it changes SEO a little bit, because it means that a lot of people who wouldn't have ordinarily ranked here because they weren't doing what we think of as SEO, right? They weren't doing their keyword research, they weren't doing their targeting, they're not building things the kind of the perfect way. They can rank now because they have other signals and because they're delighting users who have that intent, which is why we see things like the checking account comparison page from Bankrate, right? And the top 10 high yield savings account. Google is saying, oh, best in this context means high yield. That's pretty smart, right? That's some good semantic connectivity. Second kind, changes that bias click patterns. I'll show you what I mean. Images, right? So this is an eye tracking study, and images change how we click on search results relatively dramatically. So do, by the way, instant answers. Also, I just want to point out I've been watching a lot of Olympics lately, and it seems to me that Germans don't like any medal color except gold. Right? Like you're a German athlete and you're like, well, silver, bronze, I might as well just sit at home and watch Friends. Like gold, okay, I'll go to the Olympics for that, but I don't know what that is. Pretty awesome, by the way, congratulations, you guys are rocking it. So if you're an SEO, if you're a marketer, if you're a content creator, this sucks. This sucks. Because, right, Google is taking this data from other sources, they're aggregating it, they're putting it together, and then they're taking traffic from anyone who might have gotten search traffic for this, which is it's a little lame. Knowledge graph. Knowledge graph is also massively biasing search results, especially at the head of the demand curve, right? So I search for risotto, and well, there you go. Again, look at totally jacking Dish's traffic. This is not coming from Wikipedia. This is coming from Dish, and Google's taken it, right? Dish doesn't even know how many times people saw this. They have no way of tracking this. Does this have any brand lift for them? Do they get any traffic from it? Maybe a tiny bit, but they don't know how much. About rel author markup. So Google says, right, according to Google, this can bias click-through rates, rel author can, by up to 20%. Right, so if you are ranking number 3 there, and you normally would have gotten 100 clicks per day, now you might get as many as 120. In this particular result, probably not as strong because number 1 also has rel author. But the even more fascinating thing to me is this next one. Watch. What? What's Cyrus doing there? How did he get there? The only reason Cyrus ranks number 2 there, by the way, with the URL on plus.google.com, that's Google getting Google's traffic, thank you, is because I follow him on Google+. Getting more follows on Google+ and sharing things that people might search for means you automatically rank there. Automatically. You don't need to do SEO. Just post stuff on Google+ and get people to follow you. It's kind of cheating. This is cheating, actually. This is totally cheating, but Google's cool with it because they get the traffic. All right, I'll take it. Changes in search behavior. Right, so there's big user behavior changes, and you can go check out the Pew annual report if you're interested in the American market in particular, right? But big changes like mobile search, right? The percentage of people who are doing mobile searches, what types of searches are happening on mobile, who's coming through there, what their expectations are around that, right? The page load speed expectations on mobile, weirdly, are almost, in many cases, more demanding than on desktop. It's like, yeah, I know this is just a cell phone that's connecting to a signal, but I want it to be faster than my desktop at home. We are picky, picky bastards when it comes to mobile. Oh, my God, the demanding nature of the human mind, it just dwarfs anything. And changes to the click-through rate curve. To me, what's really interesting about click-through rate, oops, there's a little bit there. What's really interesting about click-through rate is that every time someone does a new click-through rate study, a click-through rate curve study, right? And they look at what percent of search results are clicked in each position, the standard deviation goes up every year. What does that mean? That means more people are being more varied about where they click on the page, right? They're scrolling further down, they're looking at different stuff. I think this is in large part because, 1, searchers are getting savvier, and 2, Google's displaying a lot more rich information, often further down the page, which is kind of interesting. And number 4, the last one, is changes that happen in your results. Right, so this is from my Moz account, but things that are happening in my competitive landscape, I care deeply, deeply about those. So, what can we learn from Google's history about this? Well, in the past, Google focused on a very limited set of inputs. This is a tragic graphic that I'm embarrassed to say I made in 2009. But, right, you'd be like, well, mostly links, mostly. Right, like get your on-page right, and then it's mostly links, a little bit of other stuff. But today, right, when we survey SEOs around the world and ask them their opinions, and we compare that with a bunch of data that we collect as well, you can see a much broader spectrum of what people are perceiving from Google's results and how SEO is changing. In the past, right, we had these 10 blue links. By the way, 10 blue links, if you want to find them, less than 20%. Less than 20% of all search queries that we've ever tracked have 10 blue links today. It's a very small number. Google of the future, clearly extremely visually complex. And in 2007, if you wanted to be good at SEO, what you had to be good at was a fairly small subset of relatively technical tasks. Right? There was some creative stuff in the marketing world, like around link building and outreach and that sort of stuff. But generally speaking, you nail your on-site SEO, you nail your keyword research and targeting, you get some links, you rank. And because so few people, relative to the size of the internet and the users of Google, were trying to rank for this stuff, you could take over the search results with this. Not in 2014. Not today. Right? We've gone, as SEOs, we've gone from being sort of a very technical subset of marketing to, boy, we better be good at all of this other marketing stuff because Google's inputs have changed so dramatically, and the way to get links that count has changed so dramatically, and the variety of options we have to rank and to earn traffic from Google has changed so dramatically. We have to keep up. In the past, SEO was pretty tactical too. Right? It wasn't just a responsibility, it was like the process. It's, well, which pages do we want to rank for these keywords? Let's create some pages for the ones we don't have, get rankings up, determine which keywords bring valuable traffic, and focus on those. Well, all right. And then you just rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. I did this for 7-8 years. This is all I did. And by the way, the first 4 steps take not much time, and then the 5th one is really hard. But now we have to be strategic. Right now we go, all right, where can SEO provide the most value to our marketing efforts? Right? And then what assets, branding, style, design, UX, what are all those things, will help us reach the audience we need to reach so that we can influence them and earn amplification, and then execute, measure, test a broad lift across all these channels, and then focus on the ones that move the needle. And this is like, it's like playing soccer and learning how to kick the ball with the tip of your toe, and then eventually you're like, oh no, wait, I have a lot more control in here. That's what I need to do. Sorry, soccer, I mean football. Fußball, right? Okay, so some really quick strategic and tactical tips before we wrap up. So you have things you can go home and do from this presentation. First one, be sure that your marketing and your product are telling a cohesive narrative, right? What really connects with people, and I think, by the way, BuzzFeed showed this tremendously well, right? The power of this, that a cohesive, compelling narrative is what's driving people to share things, to amplify things. Because of that, we need this, right? And I really like what Avinash Kaushik, who's one of the analytics evangelists at Google, talks about the model of see, think, do. Right? People are exposed to something for the first time through different channels and with different tactics than what they're exposed to when they think about what they want to buy versus when they actually make a transaction. I think Christoph, if my German fluency is any good at all, I believe he was talking about this at the end of his presentation with that last click attribution. This is why search gets all the credit, because it's often at the end of the cycle, search and email in particular. And social, which is higher up in the channels, doesn't get credit. So I'll show you what I mean here, right? This is a funnel that I would urge every single marketer to go through the exercise of building out for yourself. What is it that drives that first exposure, the first visit to your website, the return visits, the realization of need from your audience? What drives those things? And does the story that you tell at the start of the funnel match what the product actually delivers, or the service? All right, number 2. Where does SEO really fit in? I know this is going to sound weird, but I see so many marketers who do SEO as a matter of course, not a matter of strategy. Not a matter of strategy, it's insane, right? You would never buy advertising, you would never buy an ad, during the World Cup or during the Olympics without thinking about what are we trying to accomplish broadly in our marketing, and yet people do this all the time with SEO. They just think, hey, CEO, CMO told me I want to rank for this keyword, we got to go rank for it. That's what he wants, that's what he or she gets. So we do this with Moz's marketing funnel. We build something like this, and then we look at what kind of content and what kind of rankings will bring people, the right people, to the site at the right time. And then we try to go for that stuff. All right. And my last strategic one, which is when I talk to brands and I talk to agencies and consultants, I tell them don't build a team of SEOs. It's going to sound weird, right? Like here I am telling you how important all this stuff is. Well, build a team of great marketers. Great marketers who can think across all of the different channels and tactics that web marketing today involves, who happen to go very deep on SEO, who have a deep knowledge and understanding of SEO. If you start with the SEO-only crowd or folks, you get an unfortunate bias, right? A bias that's often rooted in SEO's past and a bias that can't work across channels and across marketing teams and with engineers, and that is so critical. So this is what I like, right? A wide breadth of basic knowledge in fields like email and PPC and display and video, HTML, user experience, and then very deep in SEO. All right, tactical tips. My first one, this is going to seem so logical and simple, but I can't tell you how many sites don't do this at all. Worry as much or more about earning the click and satisfying the visitor as you do ranking higher. I'll show you what I mean. Here I've done a search for graphic belts. I wear these like crazy dinosaur print like leather belts. You can't really see it, but it's okay. And I did a search for graphic belts, and there I find John Wise' site, awesome like creative designer in Washington, D.C. And I click over to his page, and look, he's got some graphic belts, but if the snippet, right, this part right here has to get us excited, has to make us want to click that desperately, right? It has to feel like that Audi ad that we watched at the beginning of this conference. Like, does anybody do that with their Audi, by the way? That looked really dangerous. I would not, I don't know. Clearly, Audis in the US can't do that. Just saying. Tactic number 2. Better content is worth more today than more content, which has not always been the case. It used to be the case that to be good at SEO, a lot of the times you just wanted more. Just do more, but we're living in a world of content saturation. Saturation, and that means that in order to just be at the bar where content is useful to your site's rankings, to your site's traffic, to your site's social sharing, to all of your web strategy, you have to get to a truly impressive place. If you just get to the, like I hate the phrasing, good content. Please let that die. I can't tell you how many people email me and they're like, I have a lot of good, unique content on my site. It's not good enough, not nearly good enough to pass the bar. And so I'd urge you, instead of thinking about, hey, we have to put out a blog post every day, think about, hey, can we put out one thing this month that will seriously move the needle? One thing that will be worthy of the sharing and attention that can get us to the next level. My last one. One of the things that I frequently talk about, especially when I speak in Germany, because I think it's a particularly fascinating part of SEO, and I think it's something where, thankfully, German audiences are much more mathematically savvy than some of the other audiences I talk to. And so people in Germany, right, seem to really appreciate and enjoy correlation data. And we do some of that, Search Metrics does some of that, which is very cool. But correlation, as many will wisely point out, is not causation, nor does it necessarily imply causation. But sometimes, especially in SEO, it might actually be as interesting or more interesting. So this is what correlation does. Correlation doesn't say why these results here, right, the ones in purple up at the top, doesn't say why those rank higher than the ones in green. What it says is, on average, across many search results, these purple ones have characteristics that these green ones do not have. This, in my opinion, is extremely interesting because it doesn't say what Google's using, but it tells me what successful sites and pages are doing, and doing differently for ones that rank below them. If you can figure out what features your higher performing competitors have that you don't have, you can really move the needle. Right? So here's an example. This is something where Google has confirmed many times, verbally, on the web, at conferences, we Google, do not use Facebook shares and likes directly in our ranking algorithm. Right? That's what they say. Okay, and in fact, there's a great test from Eric Ang at Stone Temple Consulting, where he looked at this and he said, yeah, you know what, we did a bunch of testing with Facebook, and here's what we see. Facebook activity does not seem to directly impact SEO. So you tell me what's going on in this chart right here. See this? Number of Facebook shares of the URL correlated almost as highly with ranking better in Google than links. Whoa. Something's going on. Something very strange is going on. Whatever makes people share things on social websites clearly also has overlap in some capacity with what makes things perform well in Google. And I find correlations like this fascinating. I find them extremely useful. I think this is how we should all be thinking about them as marketers. Not that this means Google measures Facebook, but that this means if I don't produce content that people would share on Facebook, I probably don't have a fantastic chance of performing well in Google. So today, 2014, SEO is a lot bigger than just SEO, but thankfully all the skills, all the tactics, everything that we have built from 1997 when SEO started to 2013 remain valuable and critical. And you can find all these slides online, bit.ly/keepupwithgoogle. I hope I get to see you guys again soon. Thanks so much.